when I let you go. Ooh, I just pulled you closer. Ooh, I can't understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip has pulled you into me. When I let you go, it just pulled you closer. It's a long departure. It's a long departure. Before I see you again, before it all makes sense, but I can't hold you back. And I still don't understand where it came from, but you're back in with the passion. I'm awake with the flame in a hailstorm. I'm back in, I gotta have it. Everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip has pulled you into me. When I let you go, it just pulled you closer. It's a long departure. It's a long departure.
Hello everybody and welcome to Season 2 of the Simulation Racing Leagues TCR series, and we are kicking it off at one of the best circuits in the world, in my opinion, in the UK for most, but Brands Hatch, a beautiful 3.9 kilometre circuit buried in the Kent countryside, a wonderful circuit. I love it to bits if you couldn't tell already, and we've got touring cars here, famed for hosting the first and final round of the British Touring Car Championship. It's bound to have some great action, and it's not just touring cars that this circuit has been related to. It's held the British Grand Prix, the World Touring Car Championship, and A1GP as well, the lap record holder set by Adam Carroll from A1GP in the Ferrari engined beast of a thing. And I'm sure we're not going to be touching lap times like Adam did all those years ago, but I can guarantee we are going to have double if not triple the action. We were out 2 weeks ago albeit at Suzuka multiple occasions. 3 times we attempted to get it right. We finally got it right. We got a good grid and a good race together. Feel free to go check that out later. Got a bit of admin work still to do, of course, just to amend the season, but the season now has set dates. We do have a set calendar, so everything's been shuffled around, including Suzuka. So we are at Brands Hatch obviously this evening for round 1, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Roval, for round 2, Zolder for round 3, Donington Park, the national layouts for round 4, Nürburgring at round 5, Okayama International Circuit for round 6, Alton Park for round 7, then Suzuka slots in on the Grand Prix version of the circuit for round 8. Then it's over to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and then to Snetterton for the final round, the 300 layout. Keep an eye out for that. That's going to be one hell of a round. The drivers are currently out for their qualifying, so let's see how everybody's getting on. This is Mark Draper for Simulation Racing Leagues, heading through clearways onto his second flying lap. This will be the first time posted by somebody, I believe. Let's have a quick look over. If we get best time, we should end up slowly starting to see some times rocking. Albeit, I think we do need a quick reload of the overlay, so bear with me a few moments. Everything will disappear, everything will come back. We still don't have any time set, funnily enough. So let's just keep an eye out on the timing screen, see what people are doing. For the moment, it's everybody's out on circuit, and they are setting times. You can see, if you are looking at the live timing, the sector times are slowly starting to get lit in a sea of green and blue, so everybody is definitely pushing the limits. Looking at the timing screen, Mark Draper, he is on a quick lap, so is Pedro Rebello for GRT. And also keep an eye out for this man here, Scott Malcolm, going through the final corner of clearways onto the start-finish straight, hugging the white line, trying to make the straight as short as possible. Heading towards the line now. Does he set a time? Does he ever? Right to the top of the times for Scott Malcolm. A 134, pardon me, 0.435. Then it's Dean Catherwood, currently in provisional P2, a 134.631. Then it's Pedro Rebello for GRT. Look at that, Dan Mould right up to the top of the times, 133.571, shortly followed by Wojciech Potacek for Simtech Racing. Mark Draper splits the pair of them. I told you to keep an eye on him at 133.792. Look at that, CRG right up to the top of the timing screens, a 133.532. A very quick lap time, not a massive deficit, however, back to Dan Mould. So provisional pole at the moment, still unsettled. No guarantee that CRG will get it. And for the moment, qualifying continues to tick through. Let's see what CRG's doing. Heading through Surtees now, looking for the late apex. Not too much curb, so it bounces the car over the road. You can be quite greedy with the curb on the exit. Just watch the grass beyond that. Down Pilgrim's Drop, under the bridge we go. Then back up, climbing up Hawthorne's Hill for the very quick right-hander. Down a gear, pitch it in towards the apex. Then it's foot flat to the floor on the run up towards Westfield. And then towards the almost double right-hander of Dingle Dell. Tom Stanley for Asymmetric goes to the top of the times, a 133.349. Now through Sheen Curve for Callum Reid Garton. He is setting very quick personal best and overall best lap times. Through Westfield we go now. The run up towards Clearways. A slight downhill section of the circuit. Great overtaking opportunity if you're brave enough. Through Clearways we go. On the brakes, down a couple of gears. He will be trying to use all the track available, almost a bit too much. He needs to get out onto that grass. That will have cost him probably about a tenth of a second by the time we get to the line. So 133.532 last time by, a 133.349 to beat. Breaks the timing beam, and I don't think that will have counted. That was an off track, so only 5 minutes of the session remaining, but these drivers only get 3 laps to squeeze into that 10-minute time frame. So this is Callum Reid's final lap and his final opportunity to get on provisional pole position. Dan Mould has already passed the line twice, so this is his final lap as well. He set a purple sector 5 last time by. Tom Stanley setting purple sectors 1, 3 and 4. Who else can we have a look at where it's fairly close on the order? Look at this, Derek Crowther. Look at that time on the left-hand side of your screen. He's 100ths behind Pete Bryan, 200ths behind Riccardo Neto, only 500ths ahead of Ignium Motorsport driver Andy Lovesley. So very close in the mid-pack, as is expected. Scott Tuffy posts his first time of the day, and what a time that is, a 33.412. Tom Stanley betters his provisional pole time, a 133.256, so he's a good 1.5 tenths clear at the moment. What can CRG respond with? That's off the road, and that is a 1x. So Callum Reid-Garton, at the moment, he has been knocked off the front row of the grid, and he can't do anything about that. He's being knocked even further down the order. Look at that, Dan Mould to the top of the times, the one and only driver into the 32s as we speak, a 132.875. Great stuff from Dan Mould. That's a huge deficit, almost 4 tenths of a second clear of Tom Stanley in asymmetric. So CRG has gone from 0 to hero. Was in P2 at the start of that lap, now in P6. Mark Draper in at P4, rounding out row 2. Then it's Anthony James Myatt. Then we get to Callum Reid-Garton. Riccardo Neto still out and circulating. He is on his final lap of qualifying. I say that as he pulls over onto the left-hand side of the Cooper Straight. And I do believe everybody else has pretty much taken the foot off the gas. Tom Stanley still charging forward. This lap won't count towards his qualifying efforts. However, the extra bit of practice will be more than welcome, I'm sure. Who else do we still have out and circulating? Fraser Garrity currently going through Hawthorns, heading through the woodland section of the circuit. Craig Walters also still out and circulating. I don't think he will end up with another lap, however. So keep an eye on Fraser Garrity, CRG Motorsport driver, his teammate from P2 to P6. What can he do to fly the flag for CRG? Through the penultimate corner he goes, down the hill, under the bridge, in towards Clearways. Try and carry the momentum, or as much as possible. Just don't do what your teammate did, mate, and run wide, pick up that 1x on what was looking like a blisteringly quick lap. So Fraser Garrity now charging towards the timing beam. Crosses the line now, a 135.861 to beat, and he does go quicker. He goes and does a 135.164, promotes himself up and past Craig Walters into P21. And not a massive gap, only about a 1/10 and a half up to David Fuller as well, or Kieran Fuller, pardon me. So not the biggest gap in the world. Who else do we still have out and circulating? I don't think we have anybody. Dan Mould enjoying the scenery on the run up towards turn 1. Tom Stanley has returned to the pit lane, so the final minute of the session. This is where I would normally have a quick look through the championship standings, but we can't do that because it is, of course, round 1. Suzuka, any points that were made have been discounted, and that round is null and void, so we're going to treat that as almost round 0, the pre-season test. And we are here, as previously mentioned, at Brands Hatch for round 1 of the season. Obviously, a massive thanks to Pinjin as well for sponsoring Simulation Racing Leagues, as well as Data Shred and SM Computers. But what a lap by Dan Mould. We knew he was quick. Season 1 champion, of course. And he goes and puts it on the front row of the grid on the first round of the season by 4 tenths of a second. Great stuff from the reigning champion in the number 80 Ignium Motorsport machine. Only a couple of seconds left of this qualifying session. It ticks past the 10-minute mark now. The checkered flag waves, and we should have the grid available to you. So let's see what we can get up. There you go, Dan Mould on provisional pole, or on pole position. Nothing provisional about it anymore, mate. Right up to the top alongside Tom Stanley. Then it's Scott Tuffy P3, Mark Draper in P4, Anthony James Myatt in P5, P6 is Callum Reid-Garton. Riccardo Neto lines up in P7 with Scott Malcolm for company. Wojciech Potacek in P9, Carl Luckman rounds out your top 10.
I bet 5 of Fraser been cars off.
Turns out I have got the radio still on, so let me just put you on a quick splash screen while I turn you off. I'm hoping nobody says something they'll regret. There we go, back to normal again. Sorry about that. But it's then Dean Catherwood P11, Pedro Rebello in P12. We'll go down another couple of rows. Then it's Ben Dana, Neil Stevenson, Al Brown, Derek Crowther, Andrew Lovesley, Pete Bryan, John Brown, Kieran Fuller in 20th, Fraser Garrity 21st, Craig Walters 22nd, David Smith in 23rd, and I think we have no time to spare as the lights are on now, and round 1 of the SRL Season 2 is away. Dan Mould gets a decent start, and look at that. Tom Stanley really dropping down the order. Scott Tuffy got a good start as well, trying to follow the pole sitter. Then it's Mark Draper has snuck through, and he's been absolutely swamped. CRG now round the outside of Tom Stanley, and Asymmetric jumps over to the right-hand side of the circuit, ready to be on the inside for Druids. Down the hill we go back towards Graham Hill Bend. And it's Tom Stanley right the way down in P5 now. Anthony James Meyer hasn't really lost much from the start, apart from the position. Then it's Scott Malcolm, Wojciech Potacek, Ricardo Neto, Carl Lakeman, Dean Catherwood stay as they are. Then it's Neil Stevenson, Ben Dana, Al Brown, Derek Crowther. And that is your top 15, still chopping and changing for position up the road. Wojciech Potacek really dropping down the order, runs very wide at Surtees, gets the car gripped up on the tarmac again and continues on towards Pilgrim's Drop. But right up at the front, Dan Mould gets a great start. Look at the gap, he's already got well over half a second by the time he reaches Hawthorns. Then it's still Scott Tuffy, followed by Mark Draper, the SRL driver. Callum Reid-Garton trying to make up for the poor qualifying, then the poor start. Tom Stanley there in P5. He has had the worst start of them all, losing 3 positions from the front row of the grid. And it's Anthony James Meyer trying to follow on, hanging on to the coattails of the number 961 machine in front. Look at that, CRG took the tighter line through Westfield, and that has given him a very poor run up towards Clearways, and for the moment he has lost the position, and he's really left vulnerable now to Anthony James Meyer, who has a little look up the inside, decides this time possibly isn't the time to go by. Ricardo Neto is now all over the tail of Scott Malcolm, and what has happened there? Scott Tuffy off the road through the final corner. That has given a huge lead to the leader of Dan Mould. However, Scott Tuffy now right the way down in P9. He was looking so good for him, a great first lap, and on the final corner I think he just hit the grass washed wide, and it's lost him a heap of positions. Everybody's still keeping it somewhat clean. Now you can hear a bit of rubbing, but touring cars rubbing is definitely racing. Tom Stanley now in P2. He has had a great almost start of the, lap 2. Worked his way right the way up. Of course, this is only Heat 1. We've got the reverse grid race still to come as well, where the top 12 are reversed. Look at that now. Callum Reid-Garton working his way past Mark Draper. So CRG is on an absolute charge, just trying to show his mettle at getting up through the order. So it's Dan Mould, led by Tom Stanley, Callum Reid-Garton, Anthony James Meyer, Mark Draper, Scott Malcolm, still with Ricardo Neto in tow, bringing Carl Lukeman with him. The recovering Scott Tuffy finds himself down in P9. Then it's Neil Stevenson, Dean Catherwood, Ben Dana, Al Brown, and then the rest of the grid pretty much all following along, following the wheel tracks. Pretty much a one-way affair right the way back here in the woodland section of the circuit. And look at that lead gap, 1.7 seconds in the lead is Dan Mould. Very good stuff from himself. Only 3 minutes into the race. He's got to bear in mind, though, if he does finish this race where he is, he will find himself right the way back on row 6 of race 2. So he's got a lot of work to do. As it stands, the points are equally scored from race to race. So if you do want the points in race 2, it's almost about staying nice and consistent, and it's all well and good winning all the races in the world, but I think Dan Mould is definitely going to have his work cut out for him, because while he is very quick on one lap pace and very good at getting away from the field, Tom Stanley is there or thereabouts, posting a purple lap last time through with no draft assistance, of course, and a little bit of pressure from behind. That speaks volumes of the asymmetric driver. Keep an eye on him throughout the season. Of course, don't rule out CRG. He had slight issues in season 1, out of his control, sadly causing him to miss a few rounds. He did come back for the final round, however, but he is back for season 2. So don't rule him out for the championship, and we're seeing some great pace from the number 78 machine of Anthony James Meyer. Mark Draper as well for SRL, the lead SRL car at the moment. 4 positions back is Carl Lukeman. He's got a very busy job on his hands. He's trying to get past Ricardo Neto and Scott Malcolm, and Scott Tuffy is now in on the mix as well. Look at that huge train of cars from P2 right the way down to P9, all following along. P10 is Neil Stevenson, who's just starting to break away from his teammate, Dean Catherwood. Then it's right the way back to Wojciech Potacek, even further than that, Craig Walters, and there's still another back from there, Kieran Fuller for Fuller Motorsport. Derek Crowther just about hanging on to the tail end of that train. Fraser Garrity almost about there as well. And massive moment in the background, David Smith sideways into the gravel. That was fully committed. I want to have another look at that. So through Dingle Dell we go. Machine curve touches the grass on the exit, sideways north of 150 kilometres an hour into the gravel trap. Great stuff from David Smith. keeping the tail end of that car alive, and he does continue on without too much of an issue, chasing down Andy Lovesey now, but Dan Mould still up at that front, at the front of the order, and he is extending his gap once again. Even though Tom Stanley is lapping quicker, somehow Dan Mould is quicker through sectors 1 and 2. Purple sector 1 and 2 this time through, a 133.46 for himself last time through. Tom Stanley posted a 133.40, and he's just been demoted down into third place. CRG now up into second. He is punching the hole in the air, however, so Tom Stanley will be reaping the benefits from this. He will have the draft assistance. I'll tell you what though, Cal has really done it at the best point in the circuit, because through the woodland section, overtaking opportunities are few and far between, and all this battling has let Dan Mould drift off 2.5 seconds to the good now in the lead. So great stuff from Dan Mould. Read the start beautifully, and he's now picking all his points, letting all the action recede behind him, just disappear into the distance. Got to keep that reverse grid Heat 2 race in mind though. That is on its way. It's also a 20-minute race, so we still get 40 minutes of racing, much like Season 1. However, somehow the organisers have found a way to get the championship even closer, and simply just by adding in 2 20-minute races. So obviously strategy will no longer play as big of a part in Season 2. However, you've got to think, with the points being scored evenly, you're going to see some championship hopefuls working their way up the order. That will add a great sense of challenge for all the drivers throughout the tail ends of the season, when everything's as close as it's ever been. Look at that, Callum Reed-Garton being pushed around Druids there. Tom Stanley really making his intentions known. Wojtek Potacek has had a little bit of an incident. Let's see what happened here. Going through the penultimate corner, and he decides either he's got a bit too much damage on that car. Either way, it looks destined for retirement. He has returned to the pit lane. This is still CRG leading Tom Stanley. They are working together, funnily enough, as much as it looks like they're battling away. They've taken a 10th out of Dan Mould on the lap prior. However, up through Hawthorns, if you're going to go too wide through there, you're going to have to compromise almost half a second. CRG keeps his foot planted, grabs the apex, and look at that now. Dan Mould 2.6, 2.7 seconds to the good. Tom Stanley still trying to work their way by. They've got to be careful though, all this battling, if it slows them down, they've got Mark Draper bringing a train of cars with him, all ready to pick up the pieces. Craig Walters has had a gravelly moment by the looks of it, so has Derek Crowther a little earlier on. But everybody for the moment keeping it on the black stuff. We're almost halfway into Heat 1 of the season, and the first race of the season has definitely not let us down by any means. So it's still CRG leading Tom Stanley. I say that, I'm going to eat my words here. It looks like Callum Reed-Garton has got a slowdown. Maybe he ran slightly wide through the final corner. However, that's CRG right the way down in P5. Tom Stanley has worked his way through. Mark Draper has followed Anthony James Meyer. There is Callum Reed-Garton now trying to pick off Anthony James Meyer. We've got a car off in the background. I think that's Scott Malcolm. He does avoid the wall. He does get it slowed down, but loses out to everyone and then makes contact with the side of Scott Tuffy. That was 2 into 1. It really wouldn't go. Quite late from Scott Malcolm in my eyes. We'll have another look back in a little while. Just unsighted from Scott Tuffy. But it's now Callum Reed-Garton back up into P4. Anthony James Meyer P5. Ricardo Neto, Carl Lukeman. Then we get back to Scott Tuffy and Scott Malcolm. Up at the front though, that lead gap is only extending 2 3/4 seconds now. The Ignium Motorsport driver, Dan Mould, is clear. Tom Stanley, of course, he no longer has to worry about battling CRG, but he's not going to be saying thank you for that, because he's just made his job twice as hard. He's got half the time that he wants, and twice the amount of time to make up. So Tom Stanley, he's really got to put his foot to the floor. Keep it clean, keep it consistent. Most importantly, keep it quick if you're chasing down Dan Mould. But 10 minutes of the race to go, and 2.6 seconds to gain for Tom Stanley. So not an unthinkable amount, but you've got to remember he's chasing down Season 1 champion, reigning champion Dan Mould. He's got to make sure he picks his moments to attack. Mark Draper in the background, now trying to fend off Callum Reed-Garton. Cal's on the inside. He's got the preferred line in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Later on the brakes is the number 22 machine. And there is door-to-door contact. Massive moment for Mark Draper. The 84 machine sideways into the gravel. Does avoid the barrier. Does avoid any further contact with anybody else. But he loses 3 positions. Anthony Meyer, Ricardo Neto and Carl Lukeman all work their way through. Mark Draper now right the way down in P7 of all places. Scott Tuffy, Scott Malcolm still battling away. Then it's Neil Stevenson, Dean Catherwood, Ben Dana, Al Brown, Pedro Rebello, Kieran Fuller following along, as well as Craig Walters. Fraser Garrity trying to fend off the attentions of Derek Crowther, bringing Andy Lovesey with him, of course. Then it's back to John Brown. Onto the Cooper Straight he goes, chasing down the trio fighting in front. David Smith doing much of the same. Great to see David out this season as well, of course. Through Graham Hill Bend he goes. He'll be able to see the cars in the distance, and knowing David, he will not let off. He will be pushing to catch them for the end of the race. The closest cars we've got on circuit are Fraser Garrity and, wow, that was very close. They were pretty much touching each other. Fraser Garrity, Derek Crowther and Andy Lovesey. Andy in the Ignium Motorsport car chasing the pair down. He's got the best seats in the house. Fraser Garrity doing his best to get past Derek Crowther. A flash of the lights just to urge him on. Too wide through there really isn't going to work. Through Sheen Curve we go. The gaps open up once again just to make sure they've got a bit of breathing room. All this battling has brought John Brown back in on the trio. A little further up we've still got Anthony James Myatt trying to fend off Ricardo Neto for Grow Racing Team GRT. Up towards Druids Corner. Ricardo slightly later on the brakes. The Portuguese driver now looks for the cutback. Nothing really comes of that. He's got the better run down towards Graham Hill Bend, but no overtaking opportunity will really present itself through there. Runs very wide. I think you can just about get away with that on the AstroTurf through Graham Hill Bend. But I think that's slightly compromised his line onto the Cooper Straight because Carl Lukeman is now back within touching distance, bringing Mark Draper with him. Damage aboard that car, so he's evidently been pushing hard, possibly pushing his teammate as well. There is Scott Tuffy, still with Scott Malcolm following along. We'll have another look back down to this battle. Fraser Garrity has lost out to Andy Lovesey and has been left in the dust. However, I told you to watch out for him. John Brown now in to turn this trio into a quartet of cars, all battling away. I think we've had an incident or a gravelly moment for Scott Tuffy. Let's see what happened. Through Westfield we go, just touches the gravel. The car almost gets sideways, does get sideways, a bit of opposite lock and a boot full of throttle, and he does rejoin the circuit. However, that is now behind the Team Mad driver of Scott Malcolm. So he's got plenty of time to make up. Just as we change back, Fraser Garrity goes sliding off the road at Sheen Curve. Almost opened the door for John Brown. He had a little look around the outside, but I don't think the opportunity was really there for him. Now up towards clearways. Callum Reid-Garson with the fastest lap of the race. 32.79. Great stuff from himself. Trying to chase down Tom Stanley. There is Tom Stanley. There is CRG chasing as well. And I think Dan Mould has found another gear. 3.4 seconds clear to the good. That's just great stuff from Dan Mould, the number 80 machine. Well, it's great to see that he's carrying forth his potential from last season, but it's Heat 1 and he's left everybody pretty much at the grid. So Dan's either got to slow down or Tom's got to speed up. Hopefully, the reverse grid will mix everything up, and we should start to see what the championship will be like throughout the rest of the season. Much closer than season 1, of course, if that's even possible. Lap 9, heading on towards lap 10, and for some reason I've got a program deciding to start in the background, so I am sorry if the stream does decide to start lagging, but clearly an automatic update has decided that now's the perfect time to do so. So I am sorry if you are picking up a little bit of latency through my stream. I will do my best to try and get that to stop, but for the moment everything is slowly starting to open up. Once again, a bit of breathing room further back. However, Ricardo Neto still chasing down Anthony James Myatt, Carl Lukeman and Mark Draper. Everybody separated by about half a second. Carl Lukeman looking this way and that, trying to get past Ricardo Neto, but that has now left him vulnerable to his teammate. And it's all starting to play out as expected. Scott Tuffy recovering for that moment just a few moments ago through Westfield. Now chasing Scott Malcolm, closer than he has been for a little while. Neil Stevenson in the middle of nowhere really. He hasn't got much to do. He's trying to chase down Scott Tuffy, while also trying not to bring Dean Catherwood with him. It says he's a privateer, but he is in a Simtech livery, so let's get that changed. Callum Reid-Garton setting a purple sector 4, so he's definitely on the money at the moment, really starting to chase down Tom Stanley. Just get Dean Catherwood's team updated, of course. We don't want any complaints. Not on round 1. There we go, you can see he is now racing for Simtech Racing through Sheen Curve in towards Westfield, sideways in towards Westfield, grabs the grass on the way in, grabs the grass on the exit, does get the car squared away again, but he does lose a 1 position, 2 position, possibly even 3. Kieran Fuller looking round the outside at Clearway, so that's going to be a very committed move if he can make it done. Pedro Rebello would have had the best seats in the house for that. You can see Kieran Fuller, he's either furious with Dean Catherwood for not letting him through, always just trying to put him off, letting him know that he is there. The number 11 machine making his intentions known up the inside. He goes a little bit of a blink for the Simtech driver. However, the 111 somehow stays in front. Kieran Fuller, despite his best efforts, has got to settle for P14 for the next couple of corners until that opportunity presents itself once again. Back up towards the front of the order. Look at this. This is Anthony James Myatt versus Ricardo Neto. Ricardo in the red car, Anthony James Myatt in the black and purple machine. Down Pilgrim's Drop we go, up towards Hawthorns, and it's still Anthony Myatt in the lead of this little battle. Ricardo Neto following along, Carl Lukeman as well. See Mark Draper using all the track limits and a little bit more on the exit of Hawthorns, through Dingle Dell, through Sheen Curve now, and that was a big hit in the background. I think that was Carl Lukeman just hitting the curb so hard it sounded like his suspension had come out of the housing. But the number 78 machine still in the lead of this sparring quartet. Tom Stanley under pressure from CRG now, ticking lap number 12, ticking lap number 11 in the books, heading on to lap number 12. 3 minutes of the race remaining, just under. It's Tom Stanley leading CRG, and he gets a great run around the outside. Look at that through Paddock Hill Bend. This is deciding how the podium will play out. Tom Stanley on the inside, trying to defend his position. It will leave him on the outside for Graham Hill Bend unless he can get back across, and he can. CRG really looking for any sort of breathing room either side. And look at that, straight over on the defence again. The asymmetric driver knows exactly what he's doing, in towards Surtees. Both drivers looking for the late apex. CRG goes wide, possibly a cutback presenting itself, but the front end grip of Tom Stanley is far superior through there. Now on the back straight we go, under the bridge, down Pilgrim's Drop, then back up Hawthorns Hill. And it's still Tom Stanley leading Callum Reid-Garton. 2 minutes of the race remaining now, so we'll only have 1 lap after this one. Dan Mould really starting to disappear into the distance. 4.5 seconds, best part of 5 seconds by the time we get to the end of this lap, no doubt. But the 961 machine has definitely got his hands full. Let's hope these two don't slow each other down, or let's definitely hope they don't make any contact, because Anthony James Myatt, with his team of friends behind him, Ricardo Neto, Carl Lukeman and Mark Draper, are all there to fight over the podium positions. I say that as Ricardo Neto starts to drop down the order. I think he just had a bit of a moment through Sheen Curve. So has Carl Lukeman in front. Everything's kicking off back here. Look at this now. Ricardo Neto on the outside trying to defend from Carl Lukeman, and Carl does remain behind his teammate Mark Draper. Back up to this battle though. It's Tom Stanley on the outside. Callum Reid-Garton clearly doesn't see the position presenting itself there. 1 minute of the race remaining, so we are on the final lap. And look how close those lap times are between Tom Stanley and Callum Reid-Garton. And this has been one hell of a round 1. We've still got a reverse grid race to go, so it's going to be even closer as well. We've got another 20 minutes of action on the way after a short break. Now Tom Stanley looks to the outside. Callum Reid-Garton looks for the inside, does have the superior turn in. However, Tom Stanley's got the inside for this little right-hand kink down Pilgrim's Drop. He will have the inside for Hawthorns as well. And there's no way Callum Reid-Garton is going to make it around the outside. Or is there around the outside? There's door-to-door contact as expected. Nothing major. Both cars stay out of the wall. Callum Reid-Garton comes off worse. Tom Stanley remains in P2. Now 1.6 seconds clear. back up to the front now. Dan Mould, what a drive. Put it on pole position by 4/10. Got a great start, let all the action process behind him, and just disappeared into the distance. 5 seconds clear. Ladies and gentlemen, your season 2, round 1, heat 1 winner, Dan Mould for Ignium Motorsport, season 1 champion, and he doesn't let any of his grades slip. There you go, crossing the line in P1, Tom Stanley P2, Callum Reid-Garton crosses the line to round out your podium. Hard fought, of course, trying to chase down Tom Stanley. Anthony Meyer P5, Anthony Meyer P4, Mark Draper P5, Carl Lukeman P6, Ricardo Neto just about P7. Then it's Scott Malcolm P8, Scott Tuffy P9 after the unfortunate lap 1 off. Then Neil Stevenson rounds out your top 10, and we will have some more confirmed results for you in a few moments' time. But if that's round 1, and that's going off a similar format to season 1, when we get this reverse grid, it's going to be even closer. Everybody just peeling their way off the circuit now. There is John Brown. He did manage to pip Fraser Garrity to the line. So great stuff from John. And David Smith just working his way through the final corner. We had a couple of retirements: Craig Walters, Wojtek Potacek and Pete Bryan. David Smith crosses the line to round out your top 20. So great stuff from David. We should have the results available to you, and we do indeed. So your season 2 round 1 heat 1 winner, Dan Mould. Great stuff from himself. And for Ignium Motorsport, just about 5 seconds clear of Tom Stanley for Asymmetric. Callum Reid-Garton for CRG Motorsport rounds out your podium. Then it's Anthony Meyer, Mark Draper, Carl Lukeman in P6, Ricardo Neto in P7, Scott Malcolm P8, Scott Tuffy P9, Neil Stevenson rounds out your top 10. Then it's Al Brown in 11th, 12th was Dean Catherwood, 13th Pedro Rebello, Ben Dana in P14, Kieran Fuller in 15th, Andy Lovesey for Ignium Motorsport in 16th. Then it's a sea of privateers, Derek Crowther, John Brown, then just another couple more. Fraser Garrity for CRG Motorsport, and it's David Smith rounding out your top 20 and rounding out the finishes. Craig Walters, Wojtek Potacek and Pete Bryan, as previously mentioned, didn't take the checkered flag. The drivers now have a 5-minute warm-up, so I'm going to leave you on a splash screen with some music in the background, and we'll be back with you for Heat 2 of the night, top 12 reverse grid. Make sure you stick around.
Say it like that. If I hate you, then I
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Simulation Racing Leagues TCR series and round one here at the beautiful Brands Hatch circuit in the south of the UK in Kent. Round one, heat 2 on the way, the invert 12 race, so the top 12 from race 1, all reversed for race 2. And with Dan Mould putting in such a great performance in Heat 1, keep an eye out on himself, Tom Stanley, and of course CRG for Heat 2. And keep an eye out for the people that we didn't really see much of in Heat 1. Of course, if you are gifted the opportunity from race 1 to start on pole position, let's just glance our minds back to who that was. P12, so Dean Catherwood will line up on pole position, with Al Brown alongside Neil Stevenson, Scott Tuffy, Scott Malcolm, Ricardo Neto, Carl Lukeman, Mark Draper, Anthony Myatt, Callum Reid, Garton, Tom Stanley and Dan Mould will round out your grid. So let's see whether we get the grid available to us for this race. We do indeed. There you go, Dean Catherwood on pole position. We'll just get this music shut up. With Al Brown alongside Neil Stevenson, Scott Tuffy, Scott Malcolm, Ricardo Neto, Carl Lukeman, Mark Draper, Anthony Myatt, Callum Reid, Garton rounds out your top 10. Then it's Tom Stanley and Dan Mould starting in P12. Then it's Pedro Rebello, Ben Dana, Kieran Fuller, Andy Lovesey, Derek Crowther, John Brown, Fraser Garrity, David Smith, Craig Walters, Wojtek Potacek and Pete Bryan round out your 23 strong grid. The feature race of the night is about to get underway, the first feature race of the season, and the lights up on your screen now, getting ready to go. So another 20 minutes of action on the way. Dean Catherwood starts on pole position, and Heat 2 of the night is away. A bit of a blinky start for Dean Catherwood, the 111. Al Brown gets a good start from the outside of the grid. However, look at that, Neil Stevenson, the second Simtech car on the grid, works his way up into P2, just about trying to defend it on the inside up towards Druids Corner. Look at that, Scott Tuffy working his way through the middle of them, trying to get the inside for Druids Corner. Doesn't quite get it slowed down. There's a bit of contact in the background. There's a couple of cars in the wall. I think that was Mark Draper and Tom Stanley. Everybody continues on without too much of an issue, but there is Dan Mould now in P9, trying to work his way around the outside of Anthony James Myatt. Then his GRT teammates, Ricardo Neto, Pedro Rebello. Then it's Derek Crowther, Andy Lovesey right the way down the order now for Ignia Motorsport. He's had a bit of a knock. So has Mark Draper by the looks of that. And where is Tom Stanley? Right the way down in P13 with damage aboard that TCR car, but it's still Dean Catherwood at the front, 1 second clear of his Simtech teammate Neil Stevenson. Then it's Al Brown, Scott Tuffy, Scott Malcolm, Carl Lukeman, Callum Reid, Garton, Ricardo Neto and Dan Mould still sat there in P9. So keep an eye on Dan Mould just to see what he can do. Al Brown trying to fend off Scott Tuffy, and it's definitely going to be a task. Scott trying to make up for the poor Heat 1 after a slight little mistake at the start of the race. It left him without much to do for the rest of it, apart from chase Scott Malcolm and see what he can do in the way of picking up a position. Around the outside at Clearways, very committed move from Scott Tuffy. There's a bit of contact in the background. There's a lot of contact in the background. Who goes rattling off the road? That's Scott Malcolm as well as Callum Reid Garton. They came together through the final corner, still side by side. However, through the first corner is Al Brown and Scott Tuffy. Scott will have the outside for Druids Corner. He's had the outside for about half a lap now, and he's still made it work. So it wouldn't surprise me if he can still stay side by side around Druids Corner, if not make the position. Look at that, great stuff around the outside. A bit of door-to-door contact between himself and Al Brown. However, up into the podium places is Scott Tuffy. Carl Lukeman with a bit of a hit from behind. Well, Carl Lukeman giving Al Brown a bit of a hit from behind. Then it's Ricardo Neto looking up the inside of Carl Lukeman in towards Surtees Corner. He does get past himself. Then it's Dan Mould working his way up through the order as well. He's got past Pedro Rebello, trying to follow Ricardo Neto past Carl Leekman. It won't really work around the outside of the Hawthorns, however. Through the compression we go, 2x2 at Pilgrim's Drop, up Hawthorns Hill, and everything slowly starts to sort itself out. Well, I say that, look up at the front, and that's Ricardo Neto trying to fend off the attentions of Al Brown. He's actually just got up the inside of Al Brown, who's been forced wide. It wouldn't surprise me if Dan Mould managed to get him before Sheen Curve, through Piff Paff, there you go. Through Dingle Dell, pardon me, and that's Dan Mould up into P5, so plenty of positions gained in the first couple of laps. Further back, Andy Lovesey trying to send a big lunge up the inside of John Brown. He does so successfully. The number 26 machine left without much to do now, heading towards Clearways. He does get the better run out of the corner. You can see Craig Walters in the background trying to follow his ex-teammates through, and a big hit in the door for Craig Walters. Fraser Garrity elbowing him out towards the gravel trap, and he may end up losing a position to Ben Dana here in the background. Back up to Ricardo Neto, who's had a great start, up 2 positions, trying to fend off Dan Mould now, who's up 7 from where he started. Dean Catherwood still leading the way, half a second clear of his teammate Neil Stevenson, who's got Scott Tuffy bearing down on him. Ricardo Neto in tow with Dan Mould glued to the rear bumper. And it's Al Brown in P6, Pedro Rebello P7, Anthony Meyer P8, Scott Malcolm P9, Callum Reed-Garton. After a big hit at the start, I get another big hit from Scott Malcolm. The pair of them really not happy with each other today. Some fairly heavy door-to-door contact for the pair of them. Scott Malcolm comes off worse this time. P13 now for Scott. Callum Reed-Garton round the outside of Carl Leekman just about. Has a little look now in towards the forest section of the circuit, down towards Dingle Dell, and he does make it work. P9 for Callum Reed-Garton, Carl Leekman following along. Tom Stanley P11, almost held up. He does in fact have to just dab the brakes to ensure he doesn't go into the tail end of Carl Leekman. That's all it takes, a bit of a break, a bit of a compromise, but look at that, it's come to him at Westfield. Back up through the order he goes in towards the top 10. Carl Leekman, after that little mistake, he's lost out to Derek Crowther as well. The lead gap is coming down. 6'10" separating Dean Catherwood and Neil Stevenson, and Scott Tuffy is there to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong, there to pick up the lead as well. Number 21 machine looks towards the inside. The opportunity doesn't present itself. Around the outside at Druid, Scott Tuffy goes, takes the longer way around, looks for the cutback, and looks for the faster way in towards Graham Hill Bend. Nothing works just as yet, but look at the mid-corner grip he's got. Compromises his line on the exit to give room for the Simtech car. Down the Cooper straight we go, in towards Surtees, a bit of door-to-door contact. Scott Tuffy manages to work his way through, so Scott up into P2, and Stevenson down into P3. And at the moment, P3 is very quickly looking like P4, because Dan Mould is giving chase to Scott Tuffy, chasing his sparring partner down from season 1. Round the outside at Hawthorns, it won't really work unless you're pretty much in front by the time you get there. And it's still Dan Mould in P3. Had a little look there. Decides the inside isn't going to work for him. Dan has also got past Ricardo Neto, hence why Ricardo is now just sat underneath his rear wing through Dingle Dell over Sheen Curve. And Dan Mould looking every which way, trying to get by. Through Westfield we go. Charging towards the final corner of Clearways, and Dan Mould, he's got to decide what he's going to do. A big slide in the background for one of the SRL cars. I think that was Al Brown. I don't know whether he got the moment collected up or not, but around the outside Dan Mould goes through Clearways. He will have to go the longer way to the line. You can see Neil Stevenson hugging the white line. That is the shorter run up towards turn 1. Dan Mould may end up getting a bit of a nudge from behind for Ricardo Neto. Round the outside at Paddock Hill Bend won't work. Ricardo looks to the inside, puts half the car over the curb, gets the car turned in, but he has got the best seats in the house for this. A bit of contact between the Simtech car and the Ignium Motorsport machine. While all this is going on, because they're slowing each other down, look up at the front, Scott Tuffy giving chase to the leader within half a second now, and that gap is drastically coming down lap on lap. Dan Mould now looks to the insider on the Cooper straight, does get the position made. Can he manage to squeeze Ricardo Neto through at Surtees? It's going to be incredibly close between the pair of them. Now it's just a drag up towards Pilgrim's Drop, or down towards Pilgrim's Drop I should say, but it looks like Neil Stevenson has got the draft assistance. Dan Mould knows that Ricardo Neto's been hot on him for a little while. So if you can give the draft assistance to a rival, look at that around the outside. However, the number 92 machine, a bit of contact once again, as is expected, through the woodland section of the circuit. Very careful not to make any contact, but the number 92 machine of Nato does work his way up into the top 5. Anthony James Meyer has been watching this battle unfold in front of him, and he is getting closer. But Neil Stevenson now promoted into P5. The lead gap is closer than ever. Now 3/10 separating the pair of them, getting very, very close between Dean Catherwood and Scott Tuffy. Dean has had a great start to his feature race this evening, almost halfway through, and he's still in the lead from the front row of the grid. A bit of a blink here and there, that can only be distracting for Scott Tuffy, and maybe give him a slight bit of distrust in his fellow driver. However, it's not stopping him from lapping quicker and getting closer to the top step of the podium. 8 minutes of the race gone. And these races, I'm not surprised to go quickly with all the battling that goes on. And we tend to do it halfway through the 40-minute race, but we no longer have the 40-minute race. We still have 40 minutes of racing, just separated differently throughout the evening. So what I'll do, next time we cross the line, I'll stick you on board with Scott Tuffy. That is if he is still in second place. He's trying to chase down Dean Catherwood, but I'm sure it's quite the task when the car in front is blinking around a little bit. I'm sure Catherwood will do his very best to get that issue fixed. A big look up the inside for Scott Tuffy, unsettles the car towards the apex. Will he run wide? Almost. Does get the car slowed down, however. That's opened the gap up a little bit once again. In the background, Andy Lovesey, Derek Crowther side by side through Hawthorns, and Andy Lovesey does remain in front. John Brown behind Derek Crowther. Scott Malcolm recovering from that earlier incident, now down in P15 under pressure from Craig Walters, nearly losing another here. And up the inside at Sheen Curve, a big piece of contact between the pair of them. Craig Walters sideways in the middle of the road. I'm not sure what happened there. I think that could have just been a bit of miscommunication between the drivers. John Brown slowed to make sure he can get the car turned in. Scott Malcolm maybe didn't expect it, and it just left Craig Walters with nowhere to go, and he just came off worse. But Scott Tuffy crosses the line now. I'm not sure why we're all of a sudden in the worst camera on iRacing, but we will ride on board with Scott Tuffy, and we'll sit you with him for a lap of the Brands Hatch circuit. So 2.4 miles later, and I'll be back with you. Don't go away. I was going to leave you on board for a little bit longer, but I just can't contain myself. Scott Tuffy, after a little bit of a nudge, pardon me, towards Dean Catherwood, and towards Hawthorns, and that has just pushed him wide and given him the lead. CRG posting a purple time of 32.755, almost a second quicker than all the drivers around him. He's on a charge up from P8, but pole sitter and long-time leader Dean Catherwood has now been kicked down towards the final step of the podium. Ricardo Neto trying to work his way up to take that off him, but look at this now. Dan Mould on the inside of Surtees, who will be the outside for everything thereafter. But race one winner looking to try and make it 2 from 2 at the moment. The only thing standing in his way is Scott Tuffy, and it doesn't sound like much, but believe me, going off his season 1 performances, it should be a task. However, Dan Mould up the inside just about. Still a bit of an overlap. Scott Tuffy runs slightly wide. It will be the outside for Sheen Curve. And somehow, Scott Tuffy still in front, overcooks it slightly through Sheen Curve, grabs the grass and contact between himself and Dean Catherwood. Ricardo Neto works his way through. Dean Catherwood left without much momentum, meaning that Anthony James Myatt can work his way through. And Catherwood, he's gone from first to fifth in the space of, what, one lap. Scott Tuffy has gone from first to second, and he's under pressure from Ricardo Neto for third now. But more importantly, Dan Mould now at the front end of affairs. Season 1 winner, Race 1 winner, and now Race 2 leader. He's definitely not hanging around, and he's looking to defend that title. And what better way to do it than to score maximum points at round 1 of the season. Scott Tuffy still sat there in P2. We've got a good little battle going on in the background between the two SRL teammates of Al Brown and Carl Lukeman. I'm sure team orders, they are and aren't in effect almost at the same time. Obviously the number 1 rule is don't hit your teammate, but the number 2 rule is it's touring cars, so they're going to end up getting their elbows out. You can see Carl Lukeman, I don't think there's a straight panel on that Audi anymore. So he's definitely been showing us how to do it. Somehow he's still got both his wing mirrors. We'll have another look back in a few minutes' time to make sure he's dispersed of one of those. Neil Stevenson under pressure from Callum Reid-Garton. Callum currently holds the fastest lap of the race. And he's only going quicker. The 1 minute 32.76 that Callum Reid-Garton has set would, I believe, have put him on pole position as well during qualifying. But Neil Stevenson isn't left with much to do in the way of defence there, because Callum Reid-Garton around the outside, more committed, later on the brakes. Position made for Callum Reid-Garton. And that position is definitely secured by the time he gets towards turn 1. Dan Mould, while he was almost half a second clear a few laps ago, he is now back under the hammer from Scott Tuffy, bringing Ricardo Neto with him. Ricardo, one of the new drivers for Season 2, and if he can remain where he is, that will be a great debut night for himself. In the background, it's all kicking off with Anthony James Myatt, Dean Catherwood, Tom Stanley and Callum Reid-Garton. Of course, Tom Stanley after the incident at the start. It's great to see him working his way back up through the order, bringing Callum Reid-Garton with him. Dan Mould defending the inside up towards Hawthorns. Scott Tuffy trying to find the chink in the armour. Let's have a little look further back. There is Dean Catherwood, pole sitter, race leader for a short while as well. Under pressure from Tom Stanley, trying to hold on to that top 5 finish. He's only got 4.5 minutes left of the race. But that is going to be one big ass, because Tom Stanley is very formidable, pushing him through. Westfield almost pushed him a little too quickly there, sorry, through Sterling's. And then heading towards the final corner of Clearways, Tom Stanley letting Dean Catherwood know his intentions and letting him know that he's not going to take it lying down. Dan Mould still defending his lead in towards turn 1, because Scott Tuffy has got a very difficult decision to make. Does he apply everything he's got onto Dan Mould to try and get that first win of the season, try and get in front of him? However, that does mean forgetting about Ricardo in the background, and that can be dangerous, as Ricardo is one of the newer drivers to the series, but do not underestimate him. As we've seen, he's just picked his moments, picked his points, and followed Dan Mould right the way up through the order. So the last thing Scott really wants to do is forget about Ricardo, and the last thing he wants to do is forget about Dan. So a very tricky position for Scott Tuffy, and he's got to make the decision in the next 3.5 minutes, because that's all he's got left on lap 11 at the moment. I'm sure we'll get about 13 laps in. Round the outside, Scott Tuffy goes at Hawthorns. It will be the outside for the next right-hander as well. He tried it last time, he's made it stick. This time, great stuff. Does he run wide? A slight kick up of gravel. However, Scott Tuffy now in the lead. Great committed move from Scott. Dan Mould in P2, clouting the curb as well as Ricardo Neto. Anthony James Myatt in the background looking to pick up the pieces. He's managed to fend off Tom Stanley for the moment as he's worked his way past Dean Catherwood. Scott defending his position in towards Clearways. Contact between the lead duo, and that's given them both a kick on towards the start-finish straight. Dan Mould on the inside. There is the overlap. Ricardo Neto sat there wondering what to do with himself, where to place his car. Sits behind Scott Tuffy. Dan Mould up the inside. Dan Mould back in the lead. Anthony James Meyer, watching this, must just be rubbing his hands together, thinking if they can all take each other off, that'd be great, thank you very much. But I'm pretty sure these guys know better than that. Still Dan Mould in the lead, with Scott Tuffy in tow. Ricardo Neto on his way. Anthony James Meyer pretty much part of this battle now. So it's 4 for the lead. Tom Stanley a little too far back to consider fighting, bringing Callum Reid-Garton with him. Catherwood now right the way down in P9. Massive moment for Meyer in the background. All over the grass he goes. All that time he's just made up has all gone out the window. Callum Reid-Garton, he says he's out of the race on the left-hand side of my screen. I'm assuming that could just be a little bit of a blink for himself. I hope he is still in the race, and I hope he hasn't disconnected. However, he is not coming back. So I don't know what has happened there. We'll keep an eye on that. Dan Mould still in the lead. 1.5 minutes of the race remaining, so we will be going on to the final lap next time by. And this has been one hell of a feature race. Got to think this is a new setup for the series. It's been completely reworked, and my God, everybody behind the scenes at SRL has done a great job with it, because they have produced a great little racing series, and it can only get closer as the season wears on. For everybody but Dan Mould onto the final lap of the race and the final lap of the night we go. Dan Mould, after winning round 1, it's looking like he's going to have much of the same fortune for round 2, or for heat 2, pardon me, the reverse grid race. Started in P12 after, like I said, winning round heat 1. Worked his way up through the order, bringing Neto with him, and is gifted, or helps Neto up onto the podium places. Dan Mould now with a hand on that winner's trophy. Don't rule it out though, a slight mistake on this lap could cost him a lead, could even cost him a podium, because Meyer is there. Tom Stanley has reeled Meyer in by a full second. Of course, Meyer with that slight little gravelly moment on the lap prior. I'm sure Stanley is in hot pursuit. In the background, Carl Leekman still fending off Andy Lovesey behind while chasing down his teammate of Al Brown in front. However, Dan Mould through Sheen Curve for the final time, through the penultimate corner for the final time of the night. And it's just nice and easy now. Down a gear, flick it in towards the right-hander of Clearways. Keep it off the gravel, and you're golden to the line, mate. Dan Mould, ladies and gentlemen, after winning Heat 1 of the night, winning round 1 of the season, and completely wiping the floor with everybody else, Dan Mould has done it. Got pole, got the fastest lap, and he's won both races here this evening. Maximum points for Dan Mould. Scott Tuffy, it's great to see him up on the podium. And Ricardo Neto, everybody, for GRT, gets a podium in his debut night of the season. Great stuff from the number 92 machine. Anthony James Meyer keeps P4. Tom Stanley rounds out your top 5. Then it's Neil Stevenson in P6. And we will have some more confirmed results for you in a few moments' time. But what a night that was. Great racing from everybody involved. And if it's going to be like that for the rest of the season, well, everyone's going to have the work cut out for them, because it's closer than season 1. I didn't think that was possible, but somehow the admins and everybody behind the scenes at SRL have managed to do it. David Smith crossing the line now in P17. A few more retirements this time by Lukeman, Reid-Garton, Fuller, Malcolm and Brian. We do have the feature results available to you, so let's get them up on screen now. And there is the confirmation. Only by 0.4 of a second, this time not 4 seconds, but 0.4 of a second, your leader of the championship, your winner of Heat 1 and the feature race tonight, Dan Mould for Ignium Motorsport, the number 80 machine. Great stuff. Scott Tuffy finishes in P2. It's so good to see Scott back up on the podium. Ricardo Neto rounds out your podium for Grow Racing Team. Great to see him on the podium on his debut night for the championship. Anthony James Meyer in P4. Tom Stanley and Asymmetric round out your top 5. Then it's Neil Stevenson in 6th. Pedro Rebello, pardon me, in P7. 8th was Dean Catherwood. Unfortunately, couldn't quite remain in the top 5 after starting on pole and leading the race. Andy Lovesey in P9. Al Brown rounds out your top 10. 11th was Derek Crowther. 12th, John Brown. Fraser Garrity in 13th. Craig Walters 14th. Ben Dana 15th. Mark Draper 16th. David Smith in 17th. And he rounds out your finishes. Then it was Carl Lukeman retiring 1 lap from the end, followed by Callum Reid Garton, Scott Malcolm, Kieran Fuller, Wojtek Potacek, and Pete Bryan didn't make it to the grid. And I'm sure we will have some interviews available to us, and it would massively surprise me if everybody doesn't jump in for that, because that was one very busy night for everyone involved. Everywhere you looked, there was constantly something going on. We're going to have to make sure we bring him in. Let's see whether we can get him. We're going to go from the top of the podium this time by. Usually we go from 3rd to 1st, but we've got to bring him in. Dan Mould, welcome to the commentary box. You've just won Heat 1 and the feature race, put it on pole in the qualifying session. You couldn't have done anything better than that. What a performance.
I know. Didn't expect that. Wow. Tom, I know Tom's quick in practice. He put in a really quick time. I was like, "Whoa, this is going to be close." And then he had a really poor start. The usual suspects were on pace. Carl, Stuffy, and Mark, the new lad Mark Draper, Tony, Anthony's put in some good times recently. So yeah, it was. I was lucky in the first race. I think I just got away from them lot tussling. And the second race, I was just kind of tiptoeing through the battling pack and never expected to be up top. And I saw Scott and is it Dean Catherwood, I think his name. I saw them in the distance. I thought if I need to get up to Scott while he's battling, and it happened. I think if Scott would have got past him, it would have been very hard to catch him. But he's got the pace. Yeah,
Scott is ballistically quick and clean air, and like you say, you just did exactly what you had to. And with it being a new season, of course, we've got a new layout. We've got Heat 1, the 20-minute race, and then the feature race, the reverse grid 20-minute race. So that completely changes the complexion of both the races. So after winning Heat 1, you were put right the way back on the 6th row of the grid in P12. And like you say, you just picked your moments, worked your way through. You did have one little person following you, though, Ricardo Neto, following you through the order. Was that something you were expecting, something you were happy with, or was it just you couldn't really shake him off?
No, I would have done the same thing. It seemed like he let me go past him on turn 1, and then, like I say, he just sort my bumper and followed me through, which is it's epic driving from him. I've just said to him in chat, nice, clean, fast from yourself. He's new to the league. He's shown some great pace at the first mess up of race we did. So yeah, I think he's one to watch. He's like I say, he's a very clean racer. He's on your bumper, no silly dives. Great racing with him, but brilliant tactic from him.
Yeah, it definitely works. We'll make sure we keep an eye out for him. And I know you said last season, and it's probably very much the same this season, you don't look for the points, you just look to enjoy yourself, and that's what it's always been about, that's what it always will be about. But come on, you've got the braggy rights tonight. First time everybody's been together for round 1 of the season, you've gone and won both races, and like I said earlier, put it on pole. That's got to be worth a little something, and you may already have one finger on that championship trophy.
Yeah, of course, everyone wants to win. I always want to win. And we've got a little small WhatsApp group between a few of the lads in SRL, and I must admit, Jack, I do brag to them, but it's just mates banter. But they know that anything other than a win for me is unacceptable. This is why I've joined the Tuesday night league, and I'm up against really fast drivers, and it's just it's not very nice, but it's good. You race for the best, you get better. So.
Well, I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but if you do, I think we'll need a calendar to time the gaps, your lead gaps, throughout the rest of the season. But thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box. Obviously, a massive well done on winning everything you could have done tonight. And as per usual, read it off the script. Anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out or a thank you to while you're live on stream?
yourself, Jack, again, as usual, making it what it is. Big thanks to Al for taking over, and he's doing a superb job. Friday nights wouldn't be the same without this league for me. And a big shout out to the Ignium boys. Unfortunately, Ash couldn't make it tonight. He's not very well. I hope he's watching. And the rest, Paul. I can't go through all the names. There's that many of them. But yeah, everyone there, and of course the lads in SRL. It's where the heart is, and big shout out to them. Yeah, brilliant. Loved it. Can't wait for the next race.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for the kind words, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Charlotte.
See you, Jack. Thank you.
Bye-bye. That was Dan Mould there. Like I said in the interview, he'd won everything he could have done tonight. And somebody who, in my eyes, always deserves a win. Scott Tuffy, welcome to the commentary box. Heat 2, well, at the start of the race, race 1, well, the start of it didn't go your way. Heat 2 definitely did, and you were chasing Dean down, and you did everything you had to, everything you could to get by. You just couldn't really get past him quick enough because Dan Mould was with you by the time you did.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to apologise to Dean. He did have some connectivity issues and was blinking in and out throughout the race, and I knew I was close behind him, and then he disappeared, and then the next thing I know, my bumper's in his back bumper, and it's not how obviously I'd like to pass him, because he was defending really well, and I was trying to find a way to get around him. I think I had the pace on him, but of course it's not how I like to do things, and it was just a shame it went that way. But yeah, obviously the race, how it ended, I'm gutted. Obviously couldn't finish it with a win. I'm getting fed up with Dan finishing in front of me. I will get him soon enough. But a great race by him, obviously, to come from obviously middle of the pack, to be up there. That's why I knew I needed to get past Dean as quick as possible, because I could see that relative coming down, and obviously Dan's a quick boy. But yeah, it was a good night overall. Like the new format. First race was my own mistake. I got a great start off the line, and then yeah, first lap, those cold tyres are just bit of understeer, and obviously these cars, as soon as you grip the grass, it just doesn't let go. So unfortunately, salvaged what I could. But yeah, it was a great night, and obviously yeah, big thank you to Al for setting up a second season, so making things interesting.
I've got to say, it was great to watch, and seeing your battle with Dean and then eventually with Dan, it was really something to keep an eye on. And like you say, hopefully you'll get past him pretty sharpish, and hopefully get on the top step of the podium. You've deserved it through the latter part of season 1. We're now in season 2, and you're still stuck behind Dan Mould. So let's hope season 2 brings you a bit more luck. I'm glad you brought up the new layout of the evening. Because I was speaking to Dan about it. The complexion of the races have completely changed. It's no longer really a longer sprint or a short endurance. You don't have to worry about strategy. It's all about, 9 times out of 10, aggression in these things. You can get away with those light touches and those bits of contact, but you've got far less time to do it. So what's your sort of outlook on the new 2 20-minute races, and do you think that'll hopefully make the season even closer?
Yeah, definitely. I really like it because it's got a bit of something for everyone. Obviously, you see them do it in the Porsche Cup Series as well. Obviously, the Pro Series, and it works pretty well for them. And it makes for some interesting racing, as we all enjoy going wheel to wheel, and these cars are brilliant for it. So it gives a bit more of a challenge for people to work their way through. And if the first race doesn't go necessarily well and doesn't start off well, they've got something to aim for. Because if they finish 12th, right in the middle of the pack, then they're starting pole on the next race. So I'm really up for it. And yeah, we don't have to worry about saving tyres or watching our fuel count. It's just all about car in front of you and just trying to finish as high as possible all out. So I really enjoy it, and it keeps things interesting and makes not racing the same tracks boring either. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and big shout out to all the new boys as well, because obviously there was some real good racing in there.
Yeah, absolutely. We did bring up a couple of the new drivers, and they've definitely brought some more pace to the series. I'm glad you mentioned tracks as well. 2 weeks time we go to Charlotte Roval. What's your outlook on that? Because it's I think it's quite a Marmite track. You love it, you hate it. There's no real in between. What's your sort of opinion on Charlotte Roval?
I hate it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I hate it. It's when I saw that on the calendar, I did think, what are you boys doing? But I'll put some practice in. It's one, but I'll have to put some practice in. And yeah, do my best, but I personally don't expect to be up the front of the grid. That's why I need this reverse grid, because I may need it in the second heat.
Well, you've got to think, if you're not a fan of the circuit, you can't be the only one out there. So maybe there's some points available to you if you can, like I say, put in that practice. And it's all about seat time in these Audis. If you can find the pace and get there, we'll look forward to seeing it. But usual, you could almost read it off the script. Anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live on the stream?
Yeah, the usual suspects, obviously Dan and Al, specifically Al, obviously for organising it and making Season 2 what it is. It's got off to a good start, officially, shall we say. Unofficially, we'll forget about. Yourself, obviously, for commentating, and all the newcomers as well. So I hope they enjoyed it and enjoy it moving forward for the rest of the season.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Charlotte Roval.
Cheers, Jack.
Bye-bye. That was Scott Tuffy there, dubbed as Stuffy, the number 21 machine, finishing P2 in the feature race this evening. We've got to bring him in. Hopefully he manages to undeafen himself. There we go. Ricardo Neto, welcome to the commentary box. First of all, well done. What a night. You followed Dan Mould through in that feature race, and it brought you to the podium. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It was the only thing that I could do. So that just keeping up with Dan would be hard, so I just tried to keep on his tail and try to make up for it. So I knew that he was fast, and he would probably open up some gaps that I could gain some places. So it was the only thing that I could do. So yeah, it was nice.
It was great to watch. We kept an eye on you while you were working your way through with him. Every time we looked at Dan, you were there or thereabouts, just following. It was really good to watch. And of course, come the end of the race, the battle for the lead was on as well. Were you hoping that maybe they'd slow each other down and you could come through and swoop and pick up the win, or were you more than happy in P3 and just quite happy just to sit there?
No, I'm happy with the third place, but as always, we need to take the chance, and I was just keeping the closer I could. So if for some reason they crashed or went off the track, I could snatch the win. But you know, it's hard. The track is narrow. Everyone is very good driver, so there was nothing that I could do besides keeping up with them. But yeah.
Well, I've got to say, you did a great job of it, and Dan Mould and Scott Tuffy have just spoken volumes about you, saying that all the new guys are really, really, really good at just jumping in, getting the bit between their teeth and chasing on. So well done to yourself, and of course your teammate as well, Pedro. It's the first time the team have been in the championship, Grow Racing team, and it's been a great night. You picked up P3, Pedro P7 in the feature race. Got some good points under your belt. Is this something that you're going to try and follow up with in the rest of the season? Because you've definitely got the potential to.
Yeah, for sure. Pedro is new to the TCR. I have a little bit more experience, but not much. I was, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months out of iRacing.
Yeah.
And I came back now to do this league, but yeah, improving every race, and we'll see what the next races can bring us. But yeah, well, just having some fun and clean races, that's what we want.
Absolutely. It looked like you enjoyed yourself out there tonight. So once again, a massive well done on the podium. And 2 weeks' time we head to Charlotte Roval, so hopefully we will see yourself and Pedro there. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you are in the commentary box?
Well, just thank everyone that put the league working, and everyone that goes on the track and races clean, and that's all. And to you, Jack, that brings the race for us and for everyone that wants to see us.
Great. Thank you very much for the kind words, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Charlotte Roval.
For sure.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.
Ricardo Neto there, what a character he is. A great guy, a great driver as well. But sadly, that brings an end to the first round of the season. That is definitely not copyright-free music. We'll get that turned off. Don't want to pick up any copyright strikes on the first round of the season. But after one hell of a night, we obviously fixed any sort of issues we had at Suzuka 2 weeks ago. We are now here 2 weeks later at Brands Hatch for the official round one. Points have been scored, points are on the board, and drivers have fought tooth and nail for them. And my God, what a night we've had. 20-minute Heat 1, closer than we've ever seen. 20-minute feature race, closer than Heat 1, closer than the entirety of Season 1. So we have got 9 more rounds on the way of door-to-door trading paint action, and I can't wait for you all to meet me there. 2 weeks' time, put it in your calendars. We go to Charlotte Roval, and like we heard from Scott Tuffy, it's a Marmite circuit, so we may see some new names working their way up through the order. Of course, don't rule out the newcomers from GRT, Tom Stanley as well, Dean Catherwood, just to name a few. But 2 weeks' time, make sure it's down in your calendars. Same place, same time. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.